My name is Veronica Wambui Waweru. Actually, I'm an advocate by profession. I'm a mother of two very good horse riders, and they really are the reasons why we started this place. Because for the last 8 years, we've been taking them to other schools for horse riding. And so we finally decided, well, since they look like they're going to be doing this for life as an activity, why not just start a horse riding school? I love horses. I love horses. I ride also. I actually got to start riding um, when my children ride, I also ride. One of the things is that when you get to interact with horses, each horse has a particular characteristic that makes you realize it's just a wonderful, wonderful animal. It actually kind of interacts with you in a way that you can't fail to love it. So I've come to love horses. I have my particular horse, Harongbe, that I ride. And I also love the horses that my children particularly ride. So you get to interact with horses like a human being. I will interact with you differently than I will interact with someone else. And so I get to interact on an individual basis with each horse. So you simply just get to love them. Before riding a horse, you must you must wear safety kit. The first being that you must have a helmet at a minimum, and then you have a helmet and then a body protector. Because a horse is an animal, you might be riding it, it gets poked by something and it takes off with you and may make you fall. Just like you would have to wear a helmet when you're riding a bike, it's also important that you wear a helmet when you're riding a horse. Then the next thing is that if you're not a good rider, you need to have someone who is teaching you, who's holding the horse for you until you get to be comfortable as a rider. Yeah. They are lovely animals. They have no spirit of attack. They're just lovely. They're loving. But just like a human being, if someone punches you, the instinct it is. So it's kind of, they would bite you maybe because you have you have kind of approached them in the wrong way. Like kick you because you approached them in the wrong way. Let's say you approach it from the back. It doesn't know your intention. So it will just react, just like a dog would react if you surprised it. Yeah, so, and also it also depends on training. When a horse is totally wild, not being trained, then you would expect it to be aggressive because it's been in the wild. But when a horse has been trained, most of them won't kick you, they won't bite you. They actually want you to love them, you know. But if you approach it in the wrong way, then it will react because you're surprising it. Yeah. So most of the time it's really as an act of self-defense, not because it wants to attack you. It feeds on hay constantly, so you actually have to keep giving it hay all the time. And then it also feeds on unga, you know, animal feed, like the bagged animal feed. And like for our horses, we feed them thrice a day. There are those that we feed twice, and there are those that we feed 3 times, depending on the usage and depending on their size. The big ones, we feed them 3 times a day. And they also eat, other than the bagged food, they also eat berry, boiled berry. Yeah, just to give them mastura. Yeah, muscles, yeah. And salt. You also have to keep giving them salt. Yeah. A horse's most important component is the feet. And so you start riding a horse when it's 2 years. That is when the tendons are properly developed for you to be able to be on it. Then you can ride a horse for as long. In fact, we have one of the horses at the other arena at Gong Racecourse, which is 25 years, and is still being ridden. So over time, because of use and because of maybe old age, some will die along the way. The legs maybe get spoiled, and once a horse gets its feet damaged, you have to kill it because it's no longer of any use. You can't use it anymore. So, but for as long as the legs are okay, then a horse can live for a long time. Yeah. How you take good care of a horse is that you have to feed it well. You have to give it, the hay, good hay. You have to give it salt, as I said. Sometimes you have to give it vitamins. There's also grooming. There's also shoeing. Because as I've kept on saying, its feet are the most important. So you have to keep shoeing it. Once the shoes are kind of worn off, you have to kind of keep shoeing. And like here, we shoe every 3 weeks. Yeah. So long as a child is walking, we have children as young as 1.5 years. And we have had a client of 95 years old, but unfortunately she passed on. But we had a client 95 years. So you can ride, for as long. Yeah. We have children who come to do pony camp activities, compete amongst themselves. And now we are enrolling our children for HAK, that is Horses Association of Kenya competitions. Yeah.
What you do, you just hold your saddle tight and wait for it.
Previously, there's been the thought of that horse riding is for the well-to-do, but we actually we have put it upon ourselves to educate people to know that horse riding is just like any other activity. Most people will say, okay, I'll ride a horse, but where will I get a horse for me to ride after I've known how to ride? But my question always is, most of us know how to swim. How many of us do have swimming pools in their homes? And you see, the cost of horse riding, especially in Zina, is almost the same costs that you incur when you go swimming anywhere, or even bouncing castle. So it's just simply a change of mind, just realizing that horse riding is just like any other activity, only that is, when it comes to enjoying it, when it comes to benefits, it's so much more, so much more. And especially to a growing child, fantastic educator in terms of discipline, in terms of focus, in terms of responsibility. A horse teaches all that. So whereas other activities may be almost of equal cost, I would say I would put horse riding number one. And that's why for me, as a parent of growing children, I decided that my children will do horse riding as a consistent activity. One of the rules of horse riding in Zina, in the arena, is that if you don't know how to ride, you must be with a trainer. No, you have to pay attention because, horses. By the way, if a horse realizes you're not paying attention, it feels you're not together. So it will do whatever it is, like, kind of challenge you. So always pay attention when you're being trained. Basically, just have fun. I try to ride 4 times a week, but a minimum 3 times a week. Yeah. One of the benefits of riding a horse, as for children, I've already said, the socialization of those children completely changes. You find a child children become very confident. They realize they are dealing with such a big animal, and yet they're able to control it. So that for them is already a first to tell them that they can be confident. They can do it. Whatever it is that comes in front of them, they can do it. Then the other thing is that they actually have responsibility. When they come to ride here, they tack up their horses, they untack the horse, they will come for pony camp, clean up the horses. So we give them extra responsibility to work with their hands. It doesn't matter what stress I had, but once I get on that horse, there is no way you can stress me after that. The joy that comes out of it's such a stress reliever that I would only want you to experience it for you to understand what I'm talking about. There's something that happens that makes you just joyous. Even looking at a horse only. Forget about even riding. Just looking, being there with the horse, just, communicating. It just makes you, all the stress just go. The other thing is that as we go older, you realize that our feet becomes weak. one of the things to strengthen your feet and to keep your stability is riding a horse, because when you're on that horse, the movement is really up and down on that horse, and it's a mobile animal, so it's kind of challenging you also. You must be stable on it for you to stay on, otherwise you will topple over. By just fixing yourself on that horse, you're using every muscle, especially on your feet, so your feet kind of get to be strong because of riding a horse. And it's quite some good exercise. Once I've ridden for an hour, I have to wring out sweat out of my hair, because I really sweat profusely. It's a fantastic workout. The cost of a horse depends on the breed. We start off with ponies. Ponies are the small horses. They range from around 100,000 all the way to about 300 or 350. Then the big horses also range from around 250 all the way to even 2 million. But the more expensive a horse is, means that it has been trained, it has a variance of activities. There are some that are bought for polo, some for race course, but horses for a riding school, mostly we buy now horses that have already done quite a bit of work elsewhere, so they're not as expensive. So it's a range between 100 all the way to about 500,000 for a riding school horse.
Hi, my name's Wairimo Githuka. If you don't find me here at Zina taking care of horses, you're most likely to find me somewhere else planting a tree or two. I'm a co-director, Zina Horse Riding School, together with my business partner, Veronica Mbugwa. Zina was founded about 2 years old, maybe a year and a half ago, and we're growing. So Veronica and I are actually very good close friends, and the idea to start a horse riding school was born out of passion. Actually, Veronica's children were already riding horses before, and she owned a few horses, and my children were interested in horse riding, and I thought, well, why not set up somewhere where they can ride and other people can also come and ride. Of course, with any business, you probably need some money to start. So when we agreed to start this business, we then had to think of ideas on how to get money to start us off. And so both Veronica and I took small loans from various institutions. I got a loan from my circle, and Veronica also took a bank loan so we could get started. Initially, she had already had 2 horses, so we had those to begin with, and then acquired another, I think it was 3 or 4, I don't quite remember, but we got them from various places in the country. Some of them were ex-race horses from the Ngong race course. We got a few from somewhere in Chaka, we got a few from somewhere in Naivasha. So we sourced from different places where they had horses for sale. Yeah, horse riding, running a stable is very capital intensive. For us particularly, because we picked a venue that was a complete shell. Actually, it was bushes and rocks. It was an abandoned construction site. So beginning construction from scratch, the acquiring of the horses, and just general maintenance, taking care of horses is also very expensive. So it is capital intensive, but there's other businesses that are more capital intensive than this. So it's not a conventional school. So actually it's not even a school per se, I wouldn't call it that, but because we're teaching you something, then that's why we are calling it a school. Because you have people who want to come and ride for fun. They don't particularly have to ride to intermediate level. There's someone who decides that today I want a new experience, so I'm going to go and ride horses. So they'll ride for that day and they may want to come back another day, but nothing serious. They're not competing against anyone. But then of course you also have people who are really passionate, you know, both adults and children who are really passionate about horse riding. When they get on horseback, they want to come back again and again and improve themselves. So usually it takes about, you know, 10 lessons from one to go to beginner to, you know, at least being able to comfortably ride on your own up to a certain level. But again, also it depends on a lot of things. You know, some people naturally are good riders. They sit on a horse the first day and they do very well. For some people, it takes longer, particularly if your balance is not very good, because horse riding, you know, your balance needs to be really good. So in a day, you know, depending on the day of the week, on the weekends is when we have bigger numbers, you know, children are not in school, adults are not at work, so a lot of people can, you know, afford the time to come and have some fun or do some horse riding. So on the weekends, our numbers tend to be big. We may have, you know, between 5 and 20 or slightly more numbers, but then during the week it's a little quiet. You know, you have a few people maybe who don't go to school, or maybe children who come after school during the week. So our charges really are dependent, you know. Are you an adult? Are you a child? We charge less for children riding, and because they use the smaller horses, the ponies, we charge more for the adults, because even acquiring the kind of horse that can take the weight of most adults is slightly more expensive. And of course, the bigger the horse, the more it eats. So for a child, doing a 10 lesson package for 1 hour is about 18,000 shillings. You know, partnerships can go either way. You can have a really good experience and you can have a really bad experience. Veronica and I were already friends, and we were already doing a few other businesses together, but not in the level that we are doing currently at the horse riding school. So what I have personally observed is that having a business partner who has integrity, who plays their part, is such a good thing to have. Because, you know, occasionally when I can't be here, then she's here. You're not solving the problems alone, you know, and that's why it's also easier to raise funds, because whatever capital was needed would have been harder for me to raise on my own. So having somebody else, you know, put in some money, of course, that really helped. But the fact that there's two of us running the day-to-day activities of the business, it sort of takes the stress too much. You know, you're not having too much stress and responsibility. There's somebody else to take that with you, and that's a huge plus. Of course, it means that you get to share profits. It would be nice to have all that profit by yourself, but, you know, yeah, the plus outweighs the minus. There's always challenges, you know, in any business, but in horse riding, it gets challenging. For example, when an animal gets sick, you know, just vet bills can tend to be very high. And with the prevailing weather conditions, particularly this year, it's been very difficult. You know, the same way we don't have food, same way, you know, the cost of horse meal, the cost of hay has doubled. So obviously that takes so much in terms of resources from your business, because you're spending most of your income feeding the horses. In fact, you even find yourselves operating at a loss because you haven't adjusted the rates that you charge the clients, and are all of a sudden paying double for horse meal or hay. It really does affect business in a big way. So as a business, because we are fairly new, to be honest, 1 year, 1.5 years in a business, you're still fairly new, and you're still sort of finding your footing and trying to be profitable, because, you know, at the beginning you're trying to just pay bills, pay salary, pay the workers. But you know, as you go along, you do get a bigger number of clients, sometimes through word of mouth, sometimes through aggressive marketing. So there's definitely, you know, a good growth trajectory. We've seen that, but also just somebody else seeing what you're doing and coming and saying, hey, I think I would like to partner with you. There's this opportunity. Are you interested? So we found ourselves in such a situation, and yeah. What gives me joy in life, actually, I do really love to spend time with children and time with nature. So just being here at Zina, because majority of our clients are children, it's always such a joy because they come in with a big smile and they already know what to do. They already know which trainer they want to ride with. It's really a huge joy. And of course, I do love to plant trees, like I said. So for me, a weekend out planting trees or a weekend here hanging out with children and even other grown-ups who come here is an amazing experience. And also just, I've met a lot of people just by virtue of being here, and I do love to network and meet new people. So all of those combined with being a mother give me immense joy.